Hey everyone, Shabim here and welcome back to another video where I need your input here to see what you want to do after the SWE World Cup completes. Now, there's plenty of options that I've been thinking about and I've had written down, and they sort of, for me, they fall into three separate groups. So those groups are universe modes, tournaments, and then alternatives. So I'm going to go through just a few ideas for you, and then what I'll do is I'll put all the ideas that I have down in the comment section down below, and essentially just like the comments of the stuff that you would want to watch, and then basically the comment with the most likes maybe next week, so next Saturday, the comment with the most likes when we hit the World Cup final will be the one that I will start to plan for and take forward into the next phase of our SWE. So first of all, we'll start with the universe mode ideas. Now we've got our basic ones. Now the first one, of course, is Carnage. One we've been on about doing now for quite some time. So we could do Carnage. Carnage, essentially, if you don't know already, is a ECW, Hardcore, CZW, and Lucha Underground style hybrid. Lots of action there. We've got extra championships. We've got the Carnage Championship, currently held by Braun Strowman. We have got a Wired Championship, which is the upper mid-card belt. We've got an Extreme Championship, which is basically a Cruiserweight belt. A Hardcore Championship, as well as, of course, a Women's and a Tag Team belts as well. So a lot of action there. Wrestlers like The Undertaker, Kane, Mil Muertes, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman. The land of the monsters, really. And also with a lot of great ECW hybrids in there as well. So Carnage is an option, and one that we've talked about quite a lot. Next, we have, again, one of our classic ones, and that is Mayhem. Now, Mayhem is a classic one because PJ Tovey, of course, during the draft picked quite a classical roster. We've got a mix there of retro and attitude stars, as well as the odd up-to-date one as well, just to add a nice little mix in there. The idea behind Mayhem, it's very much a stable warfare, but yeah, with that whole dynamic of the classic and the attitude guys in there as well, PJ Tovey's got some really good ideas, and I feel like that universe mode might culminate in some sort of six-man tag Survivor Series style tournament, or Survivor Series style pay-per-view with lots of elimination matches. Next up, we've got the other one of our standard crew, and that is, of course, Throwdown. The one that I really drafted, and it's a tricky one, this one, because there's a lot of ideas to this, and it has developed a lot in my mind since the draft. Now, I'm looking more for the actual wrestler, the actual ability wrestler. Maybe not the best mouthpiece, but that's what I want to see. And because of that, there is a potential bringing in a new championship, the Pure Championship, very similar to the old Ring of Honor, I suppose, if you look at it that way. But essentially, it would be a championship where the only way to win is submission. So it would really be a championship that would showcase some of the more technical wrestlers. So you'd see the likes of Eddie Guerrero, potentially Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, Kyle O'Reilly, Zack Sabre Jr., all these great submission wrestlers all going after this one championship belt. So that, I think, would be pretty cool. On top of that, of course, we'd also have more UFC-style guys as well in the main event picture, with Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley and a lot more of those sort of guys. And that'll be an interesting sort of mixture. It's still quite open in my mind at the moment where that one could go. But yeah, I really want to go that more classical side. Of course, in the draft, we've got people like Kurt Angle. There was a real American versus foreign feel to it as well. So a lot of different angles that we can take the Throwdown roster down. Now we get into a few of the rosters that I've sort of dabbled with, but we've never really dealt with before. First one is going to be Stampede. Now, Stampede is essentially a Canadian-based wrestling roster. You'll see guys like Bret Hart, guys like Owen Hart in there as well, Kevin Owens, Kenny Omega, Bobby Roode, Chris Jericho. But it wouldn't just be limited to Canadian wrestlers. Of course, it should be, I suppose. But I would put forward that anybody. Oh, I've got the cough back. Anybody that works for a Canadian wrestler. So, for example, Bobby Fish. I think Kyle O'Reilly is Canadian. Bobby Fish is American, I believe. However, because one is Canadian, we'll probably have the tag team in there. I would imagine that with Kenny Omega, we probably would have the Young Bucks. But I like the idea of that one, and it lets us span the years as well. It would be mainly Canadian, but there would be opportunity to sort of test some other stuff and test the water to see what you would like to see. The next one is, I haven't got a name for this one. I've got it noted down as Euro Trash, but I probably won't call it that, like. But it's basically a European-themed universe mode. So a step on from the current WWE UK roster, but it'll be more European. So we'll see guys like Cesaro in there, guys like Aleister Black, Rusev, as well as a lot of the up-and-comers as well that you'll see in the UK NXT, as well as the ones you'll also see in just the general UK indie scene and even the world of sport as well. So a lot to see. And of course the man you screen right here, Neville, Finn Balor as well. So a really cool roster that could be, actually. Quite like that one. Next one is a roster called Rising, which is basically a very Japanese slash New Japan themed roster with input of Ring of Honor as well, I think. We'll keep that quite true because that's exactly what happens in real life. So we'll have a few Ring of Honor guys in there showcasing their abilities in the Japanese roster. Next one is basically just, again, I haven't got a name for this one, but just a cruiserweight-based show. It's sort of like a 205 Live, but just use everyone who is of a certain weight, but I wouldn't limit it. Like guys like AJ Styles and guys like Finn Balor have the style. Oh, and there we go, Neville being eliminated, Bobby Roode wins the match. We'll restart that match anyway. Yeah, guys that have the style, so like AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Rob Van Dam could be in there as well. We'll use Jushin Liger, we'll use Ultimo Dragon, we'll pull out all the old cruiserweights and link them in with the new ones as well, just to showcase basically the cruiserweight from around the world for across the time, and I feel we'll get some good stuff there. Dean Malenko again. You've got to come back to Dean Malenko every time, haven't you, really? Next one is solely just called Attitude, and that one essentially is just an Attitude era-based roster, so utilising guys like Triple H, Kane, The Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, but also using the WCW guys, Goldberg, Booker T, and maybe even having sort of like a divide in there, maybe doing I don't know, that could be something we could look at doing, is potentially like a, not necessarily an invasion angle, but having the two teams against each other. Yeah, that's an interesting angle we could go for there. It could end up with some sort of invasion angle where maybe both are looking for, maybe they both want to get their general manager involved, both the general manager leadership of the roster, and it ends up with basically the two teams facing off against each other for that leadership. That could be a really interesting way we could go, even though I've just given away the entire storyline, but I like that idea, I really do. And the last universe mode that I've got in my mind is one just called Throwback, and essentially it is just a throwback. It's a classic roster, utilising the guys like Hogan, Warrior, Savage, Steamboat. I don't know, it's all down to you guys. I'd like to do something like that, but it's down to whether you guys would like to see that. And because we're doing shorter universe modes, it is something we could do, even if it's just a couple of months or even just 1 month's worth. We could do that sort of stuff, and it would be an interesting, nice little breakup from other stuff. So that is all the ones I've got down as a universe. Again, if there's any other universe modes you can think of, then drop them down in the comment section below. And then, again, just like my ones, if you do like somebody else's comment and their comment gets the most likes, then that is the one we'll go ahead and do. So you need to work together, I think, to get some of these comments quite high up. So next is we do another tournament instead of going back into a universe mode so far. So the tournaments I've got in my mind is the King of the Cruiserweights. Of course, we did one last year. We could redo the King of the Cruiserweights, but on a much bigger stage this year. I'm thinking as many Cruiserweights as we can think of. I've got in my mind, I think it was 40? It might be more than 40, to be honest. No, it'd be more than 40. 64. 64 Cruiserweight wrestlers, I think it was. Which works out at a perfect knockout competition all the way down to the single one. And of course, we'll end on a special show showcasing some of the best Cruiserweight talent from around the world. And again, that'd be utilising some of the best Cruiserweights across all time. So we would possibly put in Ricky the Steamboat, Jushin Liger, as well as the other guy, I forgot his name, Ultimo Dragon. So again, another one to think of. And next one is another tournament we did last year. Again, the King of Carnage. So that is a hardcore tournament. So we'd utilise some of the best hardcore wrestlers around. So the best cores we can find. There's BJW cores, there's Combat Zone Wrestling cores, there's ECW cores, there's old hardcore championship cores as well. So that'd be an interesting tournament. And again, it's one we did last year. I can't remember who it was won by. We did it a bit different last year. It was to crown the first champion. So it wasn't as based on hardcore as we would have liked it to have been. But this year would be a proper King of the Deathmatch style tournament. And then on the flip side of that, you could have a Queen of the Deathmatch tournament. Again, the exact same concept, but utilising some of the best hardcore women. I think it'd be a much smaller competition, that one, but still be something we could do. Next one is the King of Wrestling. So utilising the same sort of format, but just using some of the best wrestlers in the world. And again, just in a massive knockout competition, maybe even bigger than the Cruiserweights. We could do a King of Wrestling. Utilising everybody in the ring right now. Some legends as well. Just trying to pin down who is the best wrestler ever. That could be a massive, massive, massive knockout tournament, including, I don't know, 2, 3, even 400 different wrestlers could be involved in that tournament. But again, it's down to you guys whether you want to see something like that, sort of lines. And again, on the flip side, we could do the female version, the Queen of Wrestling as well. Again, looking at tournaments, another one that I've looked at quite a lot, and I quite like the idea of actually, is the King of Trios tournament. So similar to what we've seen here, but it would be knockout 6-man tag matches. There wouldn't be any singles matches, just literally knockout 6-man tag. We can utilise some great stables from history, and just a few lot of hodgepodge teams as well that would make sense put together. Maybe some representing certain companies and so forth, certain time frames. I think that'd be a really cool idea. So King of the Trios. Next one is the Pure Wrestling. A bit like we were talking about Throwdown earlier on. I'm thinking like a massive submission style tournament. One where, again, we get the best technical wrestlers in the world, past and present, in the ring together, and for a big knockout tournament, basically. And yeah, just see exactly what we can get out of it. I think that'd be a really good tournament, that. Next one will be the King of Strong style tournament. Again, quite simple, that one. Be a pretty decent watch, I think, and it'd just be tricky to try and identify who would be the best people to put in that tournament. But again, it would be a pretty cool tournament to do. And the last tournament we've got is one that we've spoken about a few times, and that is a potential UFC-style tournament. So essentially it would be a lot of the more vicious wrestlers, I suppose, if you look at it that way, and ones with UFC background as well. The matches would essentially be all cage matches, and the only way to win is by submission or knockout. Wow, that is a hell of an elimination there by Roman Reigns. So that again will be another interesting one. And then into the third section there is alternatives. Now this one was a little bit more open, a little bit more yeah, open for interpretation. I've had a few people ask about the first one, and that is Fire Pro Wrestling. I do own the game on Steam, so we could play around with it a little bit. I don't quite know what you can do with it, to be honest with you. The only thing with that one is my PC's not the best at the moment, so I'd have to double check that we can get some good footage from it without lagging and that sort of stuff, but I think we should be okay. So that's an option we can use. The second one is a game from Steam, and it is called Total Extreme Wrestling. Now it is a wrestling booking game. There's no actual physical wrestling matches in there. I believe it's all sort of text-based with pictures and so forth, but essentially you take over a wrestling company, you deal with contracts, you book the shows, you build rivalries and that sort of stuff, and get up to the pay-per-views. And again, it's a pretty interesting game. Maybe not a long-term project, but something you could play around with for a while. Next is something very similar, but a lot more text-based, but a lot more detailed, and it's free, and that's Extreme Warfare Revenge. A game that I'm sure a lot of you will have played, one that me and PJ Tovey sunk hours into. So that's a really cool game, and again, there's real-world mods and that for it now, so you can essentially build exactly the wrestling world now, or we could go back to certain times in history and do it there, and we could even build our own company up from the ground, and yeah, it'd be a really cool game to play. I've got my cough back again. And last but not least is one that I think a lot of you might not have thought about, but might hype you up, and that is going for a little bit of old SmackDown versus Raw General Manager mode. That might get a few people interested. I don't remember playing much of it, to be honest, when I was younger, but it's something I definitely would like to play around with now. I don't remember how good it was either, and if it worked really well, but I remember there was a draft and that sort of stuff, and you got to book the shows. Whether we'd watch the matches, I don't honestly know, but I feel like we would definitely do the booking and build everything up. I like to something like that because I feel like the alternatives are quite good options because they're a bit more stuff that's a bit more interactive with you guys, rather than me pretending to be a commentator and getting everything wrong. Doing this sort of thing might be a bit more interesting for you, who knows, but yeah, let me know what you think. I'll put down all the comments down below, and essentially you just like the ones that you think are good ideas, and the one with the most likes after the World Cup airs next Sunday, the World Cup final that is, airs next Sunday, we will then build towards doing that for the near future. Like I said, nothing's fixed. If it's universe mode, it'll be in-game 3 months universe mode, so probably about a month and a half to a month for us. If it's a tournament, it'll just go as long as it goes, depending on how many people can get in there. And of course, the alternatives we'll just do until we get bored, I suppose. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. Of course, also like this video if you can, and of course subscribe if you want to see some more. I've been Shabby Gamer, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon when we decide what we do next. Bye.
The ones who do.